Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. The last several months have proved to be a reckoning for Russia's auto industry and for tens of thousands of workers whose livelihoods once depended on those factories. Idle assembly lines, empty dealerships, and worried families now tell a story far more telling than any sales report. According to recent reports, as many as 0 workers in Moscow and nearby industrial zones have been laid off, put on part-time schedules, or forced into extended unpaid leave. These numbers don't exist in a vacuum. The whole auto sector is collapsing under unbearable economic pressure. Demand for new cars has plunged. Factories are shutting down or drastically reducing output. And unsold inventory is piling up faster than the market can handle. For many who used to feel secure, the mechanics, welders, assembly line workers, clerical staff at dealerships, the stability has vanished, replaced by fear, uncertainty, and a growing sense of betrayal. This is the story of that collapse, told through worker experiences, industry statistics, and the changing economic landscape that has put so much at risk. The decline started long before the layoffs. Once regarded as a backbone of Russia's manufacturing economy, the auto industry had begun to sputter. Before the war and the exodus of foreign automakers, Russia enjoyed years of relative success. Joint ventures, foreign investment, growing demand, and stable production. After 2022, much changed. Western manufacturers shut down or fled, supply chains ruptured, imports dried up, and reliance on aging Soviet-era infrastructure took hold. Efforts to replace these imports with domestic manufacturing or imports from friendly partners like China proved costly and inefficient. Car production, which once counted in the millions annually, has tumbled. In early 2025, production slipped to levels not seen since the early days of the war. At the same time, demand collapsed. High interest rates made auto loans unaffordable, inflation and lending costs skyrocketed, and potential buyers pulled back. Dealerships, once bustling hubs, found themselves sitting on massive stockpiles of unsold cars. By mid-2025, more than 500,000 new vehicles were gathering dust in warehouses, enough to satisfy several months of demand under normal circumstances. With demand evaporating and costs continuing to rise from parts to financing to overhead, manufacturers became desperate. They cut wages, reduced working hours, and slashed production targets. AvtoVAZ, once the pride of Russian automotive manufacturing, shifted to a 4-day workweek at its main plant, cutting wages by at least 20% by eliminating overtime and bonuses. Similarly, GAZ Group and CAM-AZ reduced hours, suspended production, or shrank shifts across many facilities. These were not temporary squeezes. For many workers, the changes meant a permanent drop in income with no safety net in sight. Some foremen and union spokespeople called the arrangements temporary, but workers told a different story, one of gradually diminishing hope. As wages shrank and future prospects dimmed, hundreds, perhaps thousands, began resigning. Skilled workers walked away, unable to support families on reduced pay and uncertain schedules. Factories became quiet, and the pace of life changed drastically for millions tied to the auto sector. Dealerships bore the brunt as well. With demand vanishing and inventory piling up, many dealers shut their doors. In large cities like Moscow, as many as 11% of dealerships closed just this year. Once thriving storefronts now stand empty, testimony to a consumer base that no longer exists or cannot afford new vehicles. The ripple effect spread far beyond assembly lines. Suppliers of parts, logistics companies, transportation workers, Even businesses catering to factory staff saw demand drop. Communities built around these industries started unraveling. In many Russian cities where auto manufacturing once sustained entire neighborhoods, the emptiness began to echo. Some analysts point to the country's turn toward military spending. In 2025 alone, billions of rubles were redirected into defense, draining resources from civilian manufacturing. Others blame economic policies. Steep interest rates, tight credit, high inflation, and sanctions that made importing components or attracting foreign investment nearly impossible. There's also a structural problem. Decades of reliance on foreign designs, imported parts, and assembly rather than domestic innovation. When foreign partners left, there was no strong homegrown backbone to keep production competitive. The result is a slow collapse that feels sudden to those living it. Entire careers, sometimes generational ones, are being erased. Families scramble to find odd jobs, driving taxis, delivery work, informal labor, anything that pays. Some migrate to defense plants, others exit the auto sector entirely. For most, the path forward is uncertain. Voices in the Russian press and corporate leadership insist this is a phase, a readjustment, temporary measures. Many workers aren't buying it anymore. The sense of betrayal is strong, especially among those who believed in the promise of stability, who worked long shifts under tough conditions believing that was just what it takes. Now, those same people watch line after line get silenced. Their loyalty, once taken for granted, feels exploited. The state narrative of economic resilience and national self-sufficiency clashes with empty bank accounts, closed factories, and wasted years of work. In neighborhoods around Moscow and factory towns across the country, the mood is shifting. Anger, resentment, and quiet demands are growing. Those factories were more than workplaces. They were identities, communities, lifelines. Now, many believe they've been abandoned. When a factory shuts down, it's not just machines that go silent. It's lives, dreams, plans for children's education, hopes for retirement. Each worker laid off or forced into underemployment represents a story cut short. Statistics may talk about percentages, weeks of unsold inventory, quarterly production declines. Behind each number is a human face. A father losing his job, a mother wondering how to pay rent, kids watching their future slip away. The broader risk is societal. When a major industry collapses, local economies shrink, small businesses close, social services strain, and mental health crises may rise. Given how many parts of Russia depended on these industries, this collapse is more than a sectoral downturn, it's structural. What does this mean for the future? There is a possibility of redirecting resources. Factories could be repurposed, state intervention could occur, new industries could rise. But that would require real investment, transparency, and long-term thinking, not slogans. If things continue as they are, if demand stays low, financing remains tight, and foreign partners stay away, the downward spiral could deepen. Skilled workers will leave, communities will decay, entire regions could be hollowed out. For tens of thousands already laid off, for their families and communities, the answer can't come soon enough. This moment lays bare a truth seldom spoken. Wars don't just destroy cities and armies, they destroy livelihoods, faith, and futures. When a country prioritizes war over civilian industry, internal foundations crumble quietly, but fast. With firms closing, wages slashed, workers fleeing factories, and staggering layoffs mounting, the so-called new normal feels less like resilience and more like surrender. Can Russia rebuild? Can it restructure and retool its industrial base to offer sustainable employment again? Or is this permanent unraveling of a once powerful industrial backbone. For the workers still showing up on empty floors every day, the collapse of the auto industry is more than economic fallout. It's the collapse of trust in a system that promised stability, growth, and dignity, and delivered silence, emptiness, and broken livelihoods. This is the story unfolding behind the headlines, a story of lost jobs, broken promises, and the human cost of national ambitions. Behind every statistic about inventory, production drop, or layoffs is someone whose life just changed forever.